Gonzales was born on the 16th of September 1980 in the Philippines. He was born to parents Teddy and Loiva. Sef also had a younger sister named Clodine, and she was born in 1983. Sef's parents owned and ran a 40-room hotel in the Philippines, but back in 1990, an earthquake hit the region, destroying both their home and the area. Sef by this time was only 2 years old, and he actually became trapped under the rubble when the hotel collapsed. His father managed to rescue his small son from the wreckage. After losing both their home and their business, the family emigrated to Australia. By the late 1990s, Teddy had qualified as a lawyer and set up a successful law firm working as an immigration lawyer. With the success of this company, he was able to purchase a plot of land in North Ryde, which is a suburb in northern Sydney. Both Teddy and Loiva were devout Catholics and had high hopes for their children. They hoped Sef would perform well academically and eventually embark on a career in either medicine or law. Sef actually had his own aspirations. He wanted to make it in the music career. After completing high school, Sef did begin studying medical science, but stopped attending classes after 2 years, deciding early on that the medical field was not for him. He then enrolled to study law, but he performed poorly in his work. Worried he would be expelled and his parents would find out he wasn't doing well, he then began to falsify his grades. Sef's sister Clodine discovered what Sef was doing, and she promptly told their parents. His parents were outraged and they threatened to withdraw certain privileges. One of these privileges was his much-loved green Ford Festiva car. During Sef's time at college, he had begun seeing a young lady. His parents knew of the young lady, and Sef had been arguing with his mother because of her disapproval of his new girlfriend. He was then threatened that he would be disinherited. At this point, his estimated inheritance stood at $1.6 million. The tension within the family unit was likely the reason that Sef done what he'd done next. On the 10th of July 2001 at 4 p.m, Sef left the law firm that he was working in and he headed home. He arrived home at 4:30 p.m, armed with a baseball bat and 2 knives from the kitchen. He entered the house and he immediately made his way straight to Clodine's room. Clodine had been in her bedroom studying. Sef immediately attacked her, hitting her at least 6 times with the bat and stabbing her before finally compressing her neck. With Clodine dead, he then began to sit in wait for the rest of his family to return home. His mother, Loiva, arrived home at 5:30 p.m. and Sef immediately attacked her in the family living room. He stabbed her in her face, neck, chest and abdomen. Sickeningly, after her death, he then completely removed her windpipe. At around 6 p.m, Sef's auntie visited the home. She noticed Sef and Loiva's cars were parked in the driveway, but the house was in complete darkness, and she also noted it was unusually quiet. The family did own 6 dogs, though none were barking. She did peer into the windows and she spotted movement, but she did decide not to enter through the garage and she left. Teddy then arrived home at 6:50 p.m. He was also immediately set upon. He was stabbed multiple times and was later found to have had defensive wounds about his hands and arms. With his family dead, Sef packed up his clothes and trainers and quickly disposed of them. He then showered, redressed and then spray painted F-U-C-K-O-N on one of the walls in the house. This was his attempt to fool the police into believing that his family had fell victim to a racial hate crime. Sef then left the house and he drove to a friend's house. Sef and his friend decided to go to the mall and they ate a meal at Planet Hollywood before visiting a games arcade. Sef then drove his friend home before returning home himself. He called emergency services just before midnight to say that he had discovered the bodies of his family. In the days after the murder, Sef appeared on TV asking for the killer or killers to come forward as he wanted justice for his family. He offered $100,000 reward. Sef had also paid a visit to the family accountant that day, inquiring about his $1.6 million inheritance. He also discovered, as an apparent victim of a crime, he was eligible for a $15,000 payout. Sef found and moved into an apartment before putting down $173,000 deposit on a Lexus, telling the dealership he would be using his inheritance to pay for the car. Sef had also traded in his parents' cars and he'd even pawned his mother's jewellery. As if he couldn't be any more sickening, he then went on to tell his godmother back in the Philippines that he had a brain tumour and asked that she send him $190,000 for alleged surgery. However, she did not send the money. The family had a combined funeral in which Sef gave a eulogy and also oddly sang the song One Sweet Day. During the investigation, police first assumed the murders were part of an attempted robbery. However, given the absence of forced entry to the home and nothing of value having been taken, they were doubting this pretty early on. Also, the fact the murderers had taken place over a 3-hour period also backed up the theory that it was not a robbery, as no one would have remained in the house for so long. Police did look at Sef after noticing his emotional detachment. And inconsistency in a story he gave of giving his family CPR, despite the fact he didn't. Police then found items of Sef's clothing to have traces of the spray paint that was used to graffiti the walls. Based on their suspicions, Sef's internet records were checked and they tapped his phone. They also then had a police officer befriend him, as well as being put under 24-hour surveillance. In Sef's first statement, he had told the police he didn't enter the house when he arrived home initially that day, but instead had waited inside his car before deciding to drive to his friend's house. He then changed it and said he left his car at home, got a taxi and went to visit a brothel. But both the taxi firm and the brothel quickly discredited this. Clearly becoming nervous, Sef then told officers of an email that implicated one of Teddy's business rivals and told officers that an attempted burglary had happened on May the 30th, but it wasn't reported out of fear. The breakthrough in this case finally came when Sef's fingerprint was matched to a series of product poisoning letters which matched addresses that were searched on his PC. He had also researched poisons and how to order toxic plant seeds. Sef was finally arrested and charged on the 13th of June 2002. He was charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 count of threatening product contamination and was refused bail and held on remand. During Sef's time on remand, he was denied access to the family's estate to fund his defence and had to seek legal aid. Sef's trial began in April and it ended in May 2004. It was found he had committed the murders because he was fearful that he was going to have his car taken and other privileges, and he also said he wished to be the sole beneficiary of his parents' property. He was given 3 life terms without parole. Sef was later granted approval to appeal his conviction in June 2007. It had been discovered that statements made by some of the police on the night of the murders may be inadmissible, as Sef was not cautioned. But by the 29th of November 2007, the appeal was dismissed and his conviction sentence was upheld. That was the story of the heinous crimes that Sef Gonzales committed. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please like, comment, and until next time, stay safe.